Hey, what's
Hello,
up, dude?
hello.
How you doing?
Doing well.
All
Morning.
right, we are live and in effect here on this lovely Wednesday day. How's your day going so far? Did you get any snow?
We're starting to get a little bit. It's starting to kind
Yeah,
of come down.
nice.
I'm I'm thankful I'm not elsewhere in the country, and my heart and prayers go out to those that are having some serious issues. I've got a few students that have got no power right now, so
Yes, we have some friends on our team that are
yeah,
finding shelter at friends' houses and stuff. It's a crazy time right now, so definitely stay warm and safe.
yeah, no kidding.
All right, so I guess that's our moment of being thankful for that we get to be warm and cozy and online and sharing, and everyone else gets to be thankful that you're spending your time talking to us about Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
So
so we are today. I got a couple things. Do you have any announcements before I just jump in?
I don't
Because I'll
think
just.
so. I'm gonna be maintaining the chat, so
All right.
I'll jump in and interrupt, and I will place. So this is kind of just a little background. We're building on the Hour of Code project that we built. So Gatlin Shadow was our lead in developing the 5 Hour of Code projects in Unreal Engine. That is available on Epic's website. I'll post the links in the chat. And so this is kind of like we've already been through all 5. They're all recorded. You could watch them on our YouTube channel. We've already walked through all of those, and now we get the pleasure of kind of having Gatlin show us some secrets that are hidden in the project, and also some of his awesome techniques for world building. So, Gatlin, I'll let you take it away, and I'll be in the chat.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, today I want to show you where we're actually getting all this stuff first. So if you do download the Epic Launcher, you can actually jump directly into there and check out everything. Oh, can I get a screenshot of my stuff here, Clever Like? Bring it up. So this is a really amazing project. It's totally free, just like just about everything Unreal does. It's not nearly as cool as the MetaHuman thing, by the way, but it is really cool. So if you're doing world building, I'm going to kind of show you how to kind of think about creating a world. So if you go into the Unreal Engine area right here, so this button right here, you will actually then be given a little spot up here where it says Marketplace. You can come up here to the Marketplace, and if you type in inside of our little search over here in the top right, if you type in Hour of Code in there, so Hour of Code, you will be able to find this project. So this is the project that I'm going to be working inside of. It's an absolute blast. There's all kinds of fun things that are hidden in it. So today, as I had mentioned the last time, I was going to show you how to do some flying stuff, and I totally spaced it. I was like, oh, goodbye, have a good day, right? So we're going to fix that problem this time around. But I'm also going to show you something else that's really helpful. So let's go ahead and close this down. And when you get the project open, you'll have something that looks a little bit more like this than anything else. So I'm just going to zoom out and rotate over here. So one of the things that you'll run into is that it will open up this level HOC world, which is this one down here. It'll just open it automatically. And if you're working in another world, you may not want the game engine to actually do that. So to fix that problem, or it's not really a problem, it's a feature, not a bug, come up here into settings, bring it up here top center, and then open up your project settings. So once we get this open, you will find a little spot way over here on the left. It says maps and modes. So this maps and modes, I'm going to select that. Your interface will change a little bit, and right here, this first one where it says level HOC world, click that and then choose whatever level you want the game to actually, or sorry, the engine to actually load as soon as it actually opens up. Okay, so it's this first one right here. As you can see where that's at. So I'm going to actually set this because I started one last time in the last stream called Platformer. Where did it go? There it is, level platformer. So now this will actually open up this level platformer every time I open up the game engine with this project. So that's super cool. So let's actually load that up. So down here at the bottom, I can just select my level platformer. I'll just double click it. And this will take us right back to where we were last week too. So in here, a little bit of catch up on here. So I was talking about quick ways to kind of build a world. We started kind of, getting something up and running, and then we started having a little bit of fun. So one of the things that we had done was to actually play from here. We set up this little trap. So the player's like, oh, there's a coin, right? So when they walk over to it, and I'm going to actually not fall in because it'll do something really quickly. But as soon as I get close to this thing, the door will actually drop down, and there's a little spot down there where the player gets stuck. Well, we actually set up a collision down there so that the player actually resets. So if I grab the coin and drop in, I just kind of restart back down where I was below. Oh, and we added a little physics ball too. So some fun things in there. So the other thing that we had done when we ended it is that we took this trap door and turned it upside down and made it really huge, just stretched it out. And if I touch it now, it'll actually launch me and I'll go flying. So you can have a lot of fun with just a couple of little toys. So we're going to kind of move on from that in this one.
That's a serious launch there.
it's
I'm
good
dying.
times for sure. The bigger this thing is, the further it actually is. So if you make it really big, it's good times. And it doesn't have to be lengthy this way. You can of course make it even larger going that way too. So you can have a lot of fun with these. I don't need this in my world. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. Let's do some flying. So one of the things that is buried in here, and I'm going to move my character right down here and just actually let's do this. Where is that player start? So I'm going to select my player start and hold shift, and I'm just going to drag it over here. Hit F so I zoom in on it. And the direction that this little blue arrow is actually facing is the direction that the character is actually going to be looking. And I'm going to push this right about here-ish and just hit play. So now my player's here. So when I jump, I just jump, right? And if I double jump, so I'm hitting the space bar, and you can see that I now fly. Yay, I'm flying. Huzzah. And I just kind of keep flying. I can, forward, backwards, left, and right. And if I tap the space bar again, I'll drop. So right now I've got infinite fly ability, so I could get to any of these islands. And we don't want that. We want to limit the player to how much they can actually fly. So let's talk about what we have to do to make that happen. So to get at this, down inside of our third person blueprint, we go down into our blueprints folder. Whoop, I need to turn my filter off here. What I'm looking for is this epic character. This is a little bit larger so y'all can see this. So this one right here. So this is the actual character player. You notice it's got that beautiful little icon. Let's go ahead and just double click on that. And inside of here, if you zoom out, you'll probably see all of this. Let's talk a little bit about this, and then we'll talk about the flying mechanic, which is built in right over here. So you've got things in here. Let's go up to the top. This controls how you're actually like looking around. So you've got like this turn rate and this look up rate. So this is your mouse controls. So as you move your mouse left and right and forward and backwards across your desk, this is what's actually controlling that. So you can control these things, this base rate. You can actually come in here and like crank this number, and it'll become really sensitive where that's at, right? So these little ones right here, these are events. So when these are fired, all the rest of the stuff afterwards is what's happening, okay? So we've got this also turn kind of thing going over here too. So that's helpful. We have a sprint in here as well. So if you hold down the shift key is what this is actually connected to, it actually changes the speed of the character. And this character movement is what's actually being adjusted. So if we look at this, so let's look at this sprint. So this sprint action, when we hold the shift key, and I'll show you where this is, okay, we actually then execute a sprint speed. And what we're doing is we're actually changing the maximum walk speed. So if we look at our character movement, and you can actually select it right up here as well. Okay, so these are pretty much the same thing. This is just a reference to this up here. Okay. So if we look inside of here and we look for something like our max walk speed, we can do a search up here at the very top. So max walk. We have a walk speed. Let's actually open this up just a hair. So we have our walk speed, and we have a crouched one too. We haven't implemented any crouching. But you can see our max walk speed is at 600. Okay, so if we look at this one, so this is a sprint speed. If we look at this variable, we can see that this speed is at 1200. So what's happening here? When we press the shift key, we are actually setting the max speed up to 1200 from 600 on the character movement. That's what's happening. And then when we let go, we're actually resetting it. You can see this walk speed is set to 600. Okay, so what does that actually look like in game? So if we open this up and we play, so as I'm walking around, this is my regular walk speed. Slow, not super fast. If I hold shift and move, see how much faster I'm actually moving. It's not a lot, but it's definitely enough to be noticed. So letting go and then holding it.
It's a good stride you have there.
Super fast, awesome.
All that stuff on your back, and you're still cooking.
Right. I like how it bounces too. The animations are great for this.
Amazing, the hat and everything. Yeah.
It's really subtle. So for those of you that are animators, something to kind of look at, and I'll get a nice. You can see this. Watch the backpack. Like it actually like expand. It's got some like squash and stretch going on. It's the most subtle thing, but it's super cool. Like I love little tiny things like that. It's so much fun. Okay, so that's our sprint speed and our walk speed. That is controlled inside of our character movement. And character movement is inside of our little epic character. Okay, so this blueprint has got a bunch of stuff inside of it. So we're going to kind of alter that. So let's zoom out now that we kind of know what's going on, and let's take a look over here to this left. So this is what the entire thing looks like. If you use your scroll wheel, you can zoom way out. So zoom way out. So I'm going to zoom like -12. It's like way out, right? Right mouse, I can then pan around. So I'm going to zoom in. And you'll notice up here in the top left, yours will be a little bit different. Right now, yours is probably set up and it looks like this. So what's happening, and let's just simplify this. I'll just move this over. So this jump, as soon as I press the space bar, I'm actually jumping. And that's just what's happening. This jump thing is built directly into the engine. All you have to do is just right click and type in jump. You will find a jump function. It's already there. You don't have to do anything with it. So let's bring this back over here. Let's kind of set that up. So now if I compile this, so I'm just hitting the compile button, rebuilding the code because I changed things. If I press play, if I tap the space bar, all I can do is jump. And if I double tap it, I just kind of float and do some weird things, right? It's kind of freaking out on me. Okay. So to jump and actually fly, all we have to do, because the code is already ready already, that's all of this that you see right here. So everything here. So all we need to do is take our pressed, and I'm just going to drag it into this do n. Even on so you can see this. So I'm just going to say do n. Perfect. So now we'll compile that and play. Now if we jump and double jump, now we can actually fly and float. Our character goes into a little flying animation. The arms kind of wiggle around. Good times. You can pick that up. Haha, and I don't fall.
Busted. Take that.
You can fool the game. So right now we can fly infinitely, which is like cool, but that may not be what we want because we want to kind of limit what the player can actually do. So let's kind of look and see what we can play with in here. And the way this is working, let's give ourselves a little bit more room to kind of see what's going on, is that when we press the jump button, okay, we're doing something n times. So in this case, we're doing something 3 times. So we press it once. What it's doing is it's going to come over here to this integer, and it's going to say, hey, when you pressed it once, you're going to be able to jump. When you press it a second time, we're going to set up the fly. And when you press it the third time, it comes all the way down here and it says, hey, are you flying? If you're flying, well, start falling instead. And this just changes our movement. And you'll notice that the set movement node, the target is the character movement. So we're changing the variable on the character and saying, hey, instead of being able to like fly, we want you to now fall instead. Okay. So this is what's going on up here. Now we've got another little thing down here, and it says, hey, this is a fly. So on fly event, so when we come up here, we press the jump button, we jump, we press it again, we start flying. This event is now being triggered. This triggers this one down here. It says, hey, now you can fly. You're like, awesome, cool. Well, how do we fly? What are we going to do? Well, we're going to launch the character. Well, how are we going to launch them? You'll notice we have a launch velocity right here. So you can crank this and you can go way up into the sky. We've also got a launcher that does it too. So now we got 2 ways to make it happen, right? So what it's doing, and there's all kinds of crazy things going on here. We've got a capsule component. It's looking at its forward direction. It's normalizing it, multiplying it by 400. And then we're actually then taking that and changing and also multiplying it by 400, and we're dropping it into another vector, and we're saying that 400 should be in the Z, and then that's going to launch it. So Z is up inside of Unreal. So let's talk about this little capsule thing so we can understand what's going on here. So this capsule component, if we come back to the viewport up here, so I'm going to open up the viewport, little tab right up in here. This is the capsule component, this little, if I can actually move it. No, it's the whole thing, everything's attached to it, so we can't move it. This is the capsule component. What is the forward vector on that? So that's, this direction right here. That's where that's actually going. And there we go. So which direction are we facing, right? We also want to get, let's go into the event graph. Okay. So we're getting that forward direction. We're just normalizing it, making it simple. I'll be completely honest. Can you explain what normalize is? I have no idea what normalize does in math.
Normalize. No, let's see. You've got a tolerance. So it's getting the forward vector
Uh-huh.
and then normalizing it.
I don't know. I'm an artist.
It's some level of accuracy, maybe maybe it's just rounding it.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. If anybody knows, let us know. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, let me know, because I would love to know how to use this node, because they're doing it, right? So we're taking that forward vector, right? But we're also getting the Z direction. So these are a little bit different. I lied a moment ago. So we're also getting that Z direction. So we're checking the forward direction and the up direction. And that's what our launch velocity is. So it's launching the player in that direction. Then we're waiting just a hair of time. We're delaying it for just a hair of time. And then we're changing that character movement to flying. Putting it between 0 and 1. Ah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hunt on Doom. Hunt on Doom. Cool.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now I kind of know. I'll have to play with it some more and see if I can get it to do some more cool things. Okay. So let's run through this whole thing. We're going to press the jump button once. We're going to jump. We're going to press it a second time. We're going to fly. As soon as we start flying, we're going to launch the character into the air. We're going to wait just a fraction of a second, and then we're going to set our movement to actually flying. When we press the jump button again, we're actually going to change our set movement to falling. So what does that look like when we jump up in here? So if I jump once, jump twice, and then when I press the button again, I'll fall. Ta-da! And then I'm reset right back to where I was. That's how this is working. So
Nice.
as mentioned before, I want to limit what the character can do, because I don't want to have them flying forever. So we can kind of mess with this. With what we have here, we can kind of see what's going on, right? So let's look down here at the flying area. So while we're flying, so we've pressed the button twice, okay? We've got our movement mode set to flying. Well, after a certain amount of time, I want the character to not be flying anymore, and I want them to start falling, okay? So we want them to do this. So we can actually copy this node. It's really easy to do. With this one selected, I'm just going to hit Control W on the keyboard, and that will give me a new node, and you'll notice that it is set to falling. So we're like, okay, cool. So after we start flying, we want to wait half a second, and then we want to start falling. So we have this delay node. Well, how long do we want to wait before we tell the character to start falling again? Well, we can kind of make that decision on our own. You can make anything you want. So with this one selected, our delay node selected, just come over here and hit Control W, and we'll duplicate that right there. So after we start flying, we're going to delay, and let's give it a real obvious kind of number. So in our duration, we're going to set this to 4 seconds. So after 4 seconds, we'll then start to fall. Okay, now we have to do something, otherwise this isn't going to work. And I'll make a quick prove on that one. If I hit compile, we'll get a little error down here. It says, well, what is it that you want to start falling? Right now it just says self, and that's not enough information for it. So what we're looking to do is we're actually changing that character movement. So we'll select our character movement, come over here, hit Control W, bring over another one, and then we'll connect that to our target, and then say compile. And hey, everything's working hunky-dory. We're awesome. Okay, now I'm going to bring something over here. And I actually want a stopwatch, not a timer. So if we take our little stopwatch here, see if we can get all of this on screen so you can see this. Whoops, come here. It's about like so. So we've set this to 4 seconds, right? So we can just say start, and this thing's just going to kind of do its thing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let's go ahead and reset that. Let's go over here, and I'm going to hit, see if this will work, if it'll take over my whole screen. It'll work for just this spot. All right, cool. So I'm going to hit Alt-P on the keyboard. I just hit F11 on my keyboard is what I did. So I'm going to hit Alt-P so I can start playing, right? So, and then if I hit... I
want to see you do this.
Hold on, I got to remember the buttons here. There we go. So if I hit Shift F1, I can actually get control of my mouse again. So we'll get my timer going, right? So 3, 4. If I jump, 1, 5, 6, 7. I should start to fall here in a moment. Boom, and then I fall. Okay, so it's working like we would expect. So here's the problem. We've just introduced a bug. There's always a bug, right? So if I start, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, boom, I start to fall. But I wasn't in the air that second jump more than 2 seconds, because it starts to count as soon as I hit that double jump that first time, right? So if I go to like 40 seconds, wait for it, jump and stop and jump again, it drops after 4 seconds. You guys seeing that? Does that make sense? Hopefully. So the problem is, stop that. We have this delay node is firing, and it fires once and then it just continues on. And we don't want that because we want the character to be able, like, if they need to jump and then jump again, they're like halfway across the ravine and then they start dropping. You're like, oh, like that's not good. Like, that's not a good thing to have at all. So we're actually going to replace this delay node with a different kind of delay node. So I'm going to right click, type in delay. And what I'm looking for is right here. And this one is called a retriggerable delay. Okay. This one will retrigger every time we use it.
Nice. They thought of everything.
It's so good. It's so good. So we'll set that one to 4 seconds, right? Now, here's something that you can kind of do to kind of bug check. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Epic character. I'm going to pull it over here to the side. I'm going to zoom out, and let's about there-ish. We can kind of see that. It's kind of small. Let's look at the end of our fly code, right? So this is our fly code right here. So we're just going to look at the end of this. So move this over, and let's give ourselves a little bit more room to work here. There we go. So I'll just right click and say play from here. So if I jump, oh, is it not going to do it over here? No, it won't do it in the Epic character thing. Lame. So what I was going to show you, unfortunately, it's not going to work in here, is you can actually see these wires fire in real time. So you can kind of bug check things, but it's not working in here. I think I've got a toggle somewhere. So we're just going to go ahead and hammer this thing together and check it out. So let's go ahead and take our delay node out and just select that, just hit delete, bring our retriggerable in, and we'll just connect these wires like so. And we'll say play. So now when we do this, if we play this, if I jump and jump again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, and sometimes you get that too. So after 4 seconds, after that double jump, every time I'll have 4 seconds to actually fly instead of it kind of cutting out halfway through. Control this.
Nice.
That retriggerable delay is our kind of help right there, is the one that we want for this specifically. Huzzah, huzzah. Very handy to have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of world building now that we know how to fly, and we got all kinds of time to do this. So now that we have another game mechanic in here, we can kind of play with this. So if we start up here, let's actually just kind of build a deck up here. So let's grab this one. I also want to make sure that my snaps are on and it's set at 100. Otherwise, I'm going to have problems. So I'm just going to drag this over, and that one. Let's grab both of these. That one, not the little box that's right there. That's going to be problematic. We're in Fortnite. All that supports it. We're good to go. It's not a problem, right? It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes
Total.
That'll pass building inspection.
Right. I'm going to set my snap step or my snap rotation to 15. I'm going to make a couple of ramps right here. Actually, there we go. So we want to get up in the air is my plan here. Now let's see if this is going to snap to the nice 100 mark, or if I'm going to have to. Hey, perfect. Hit F on the keyboard, zoom in. Let's pull this forward. Awesome. And then our character pawn start. We're just going to move this over. I'm going to press, with this thing floating on over above there, I'm just going to press end on the keyboard, the end key right next to delete and page up, page down, and it'll just snap to the first collision that it finds. Press the F key. So there we go. So if we are said character and we're coming up here, we haven't even put coins in here yet. We're like, hey, there's another island somewhere out there. Like, as the designer, we want to set it up. We want to entice the player to like go somewhere, right? So as the player's coming up here, we're like, well, how can I get to that spot, right? Well, if I take a running jump, tap the space bar, and I'm still holding shift and moving forward, wait for it, wait for me to fall. Okay, so I just started falling. So now what I'm going to do, let's open this up. I'm going to grab from our basic area. It doesn't matter what object I grab. Plane, sphere, cube, whatever. I'm just going to grab a plane. And then from right here, if I can lift it up, whoops, grab the right arrow, and I can put this right in front of the camera. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of tricky time trying to get it right there. That's fine. I'm just going to move it down a little bit too, so we've got an area to fall and pull it back. Okay, so this is right here. This should be about the distance that I can get from that spot. So let's hit play. And now I've got a target. So run, jump. There it is. Tiny little thing. Oop. Oh, missed
Oh, dude, so close.
just barely. But I know I've got a pretty good target now, right? So now that I've got this here, let's just make this a lot larger. And let's put a texture on it so we can actually see this. So inside of here, let's see what we have for materials. So we've got this beautiful yellow check, right? So I'm just going to click and drag it on here. I'm going to warn you right now, don't ever do this unless you're just like testing things. You never want to do this in the real game like world. There are reasons, but for now, this is going to work just so I can see where this thing is at. So let's hit play. You never just want to drag materials out onto an object. Okay, can I make it? Can I make it? Can I make it? Can I make it? Boom. Ta-da.
Nice.
Okay. So what I like to refer to this is like interactive game design or iterative game design, because now I've got a platform that I can get to and a way for my player to actually get to it. And I should be able to get all the way back too. Yep, cool. So that's like the longest, furthest distance this character can actually fly. I wouldn't suggest making this the first jump that your character tries to have to do. It's not going to be fair because it'll be frustrating and it's not really worth it unless you're really going for that. And then by all means, play test it and see if it's actually any fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we know how far we can actually get, this is kind of cool, right? So if we take 2 of these, whoa, let's not move it. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, click and drag on this. And I know that this is about the distance that I can make it, right? So if I hold Alt and I lift this, I've kind of got a way, let's hit F here. I can kind of measure between this, and I've got a little way to kind of see how far I can actually make it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these and I'm going to turn it into what's called a merged actor. So select whichever one you select first is where the pivot point is going to be on this merged actor that you created, right? So my thought is, so here's a little bit of game design kind of thinking, right? For those of you that are taking notes, right? If we look at our little gizmo up here, and if I set this, let's zoom in on it so you can see it. So this little Earth. So Earth, this is set to global. This is set to local. So I want to set this to global because I'm thinking about this world, right? And you'll notice that my gizmo, the red arrow, so this is the X direction, is facing this direction on both of them, which is good to know. Because this one is further over here, like this one's going to be kind of my 0. This is going to be my 1, if you wanted to think about this kind of, in a linear fashion, so 0 to 1. I want my pivot point here, so that way I know that whenever I place this in the world, this is going to be where my character is going to start. Or start their jump a little bit easier, right? So select this one first. This is where the pivot point will be. Hold shift, select this one. Okay, so they're both selected. And then if we right click and we come down here, there's this little tiny spot that says merged actors. I'll go ahead and select that. We're gonna get this big giant scary dialog box. You don't have to really worry about it. Down here at the very bottom in this first tab, you'll notice there are 3 tabs. We're just gonna stay in the first one. There's this little checkbox that says replace source actors. When I first create these, this one's really simple, so I'm not too worried about replacing it. But when I first create these, I typically don't turn this on, especially if I'm doing something really complex like an entire building, because if I have to restart it, I have to rebuild the whole thing from scratch. So I usually don't turn this on. But for this, because it's very, very simple, we're just going to say replace actors. Cool. So what it's going to do is it's going to take these 2, make one thing out of it, one static mesh, and I'm going to be able to use that as kind of my gauge for seeing how far I can fly at 4 seconds. So there's something I have to think about there too. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit the merged actors button down here in the bottom right. And it's going to say, where do you want me to save this? Well, let's go into my Gatlin assets up here. So I've already got a blueprints folder. Let's just right click and say new folder. We're going to call this one static mesh. Static meshes. We'll just do it with an S. Why not? Open that one up. And then down here at the bottom, it's going to say, well, what do you want to name this? So down here, zoom in on this. So it says SM merged plane 4. Well, that's a horrible name. Also, this is a merged actor. So I'm going to say MA, and we'll just call this one jump distance. Yeah, STANCE. There we go. We'll zoom out. Cool. This little thing stays up. That's fine. That's not that big of a deal. And you'll notice now I have this little guy. So if I click and drag this out, you will see that I have a new actor and it's snapping to the ground and the floor and everything, which is kind of nice. So I can be like, oh, I know now how far away I can get when I jump from one place to another. So now these are obsolete and I don't need them anymore. Okay, so now I can kind of be like, oh, cool, I can make it to there. And then if I rotate it, I know I can get to like a certain point. So having that pivot point right here on this one, like that's super, super, super helpful. Pivot points are like everything when it comes to 3D, especially in Unreal.
That's cool. That's a good idea. It's kind of fun. And so now you could drag like an island or a platform in there where that spot is just once you mark it.
So yeah, exactly. So what Cleverlike is saying is that we can kind of use this as a gauge, right? And what's awesome is that let's go into our teacher marketplace inside of our assets. There's architecture in here. This is kind of cumbersome to kind of dig through. So what I've done is I've got a filter. So there's a little button right here and I've turned on this static mesh filter. So with this one, I get this little static mesh spot right here and then boom, then I can see all my static meshes, which is really nice. If I need to filter a little bit farther, I can use the little filter spot right here. So come in here. Let's type in island. Okay, and then I get on my islands, right? So let's grab a small one. Let's have a small something little, right? We'll get to bigger ones. Actually, let's use a medium one. Why not? I'm going to click and drag this out and check it out. It snaps to that surface. Ta-da! I don't have to try and figure that out, right? So we can grab this guy and we can leave it here. We can move it around. We can do whatever we want. The other thing that we can do too with this is that with this one selected, okay, this one's already in the world. Over here in the details panel, if we do a search for collision, we can come down and then there is this. Let's open this up a little bit. So this collision presets. So this one right here, it says collision preset default. Let's get a little bit more room here. If I click this, you get a whole bunch of options. So maybe we only want it to, work against ragdolls or maybe just against the pawn, which is the player. But we can also say no collision. So if I turn this off, now I can't land on this. And really all it is now it's just a visual cue. Like I can't actually walk around on it. Maybe you need it for testing, but maybe you don't. So in this case, I don't need it. So I can just walk through this. Yeah, just go right through it. Whoops. Oh, goodbye.
Well, and look what you did. Look what you've done. I hope you're happy.
I didn't put in a collision plane in here. All right, so let's play this. So now I can kind of see where I can get to. So if I run and jump and double jump, yay, then I can make it all the way over to the island. And this is a nice, easy one. I don't even have to be running, I bet, to make it across here. So jump, 2, 3, 4, drop. Boom.
Nice. Like a true Olympian.
Cool. So now we've got our little jump thing. We don't need that. Now we know how far we can make it. So let's build a little thing over here on the island. So I'm going to select the island and press F. So I want the player to come here for some reason, right? So we can. Oh my gosh, we got so much time. Are there any questions? I could start answering questions.
No, but if anybody has questions, throw them in the chat. I'll ring the bell when we get questions coming in or try to answer them.
Let me take a quick drink here.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so a little world building. What should we put over here? We had a dungeon suggestion last time. I'm gonna shy away from the dungeon. Sorry, we're gonna not do that one. But all right, let's give the player a reason to come over here. Let's take one of these coins. Let's bring this up here. Sit there. They can see it, right? So with that coin there, let's grab some walls. We're gonna play with this grass and stuff too. This is gonna be fun. Eeny, meeny, miny. Let's regular wall there. I am also making sure while I'm working on this that I've got my snap step to 100 before I drag anything into the world. That will be very important. It will make life a lot easier, unless you don't mind having really wiggly walls. So if you're doing something post-apocalyptic, it may not really matter. So hold Alt, I'll click and drag. So now I've got 2 of them. Grab that one. Let's grab both of these. Do that. Let's actually bring in a window. Oh, also want to change my snap to 45. Kind of move this over. There we go. These are meant to be very square, so they're not like the most awesome thing you've ever seen. Let's actually move these over. But don't be afraid to actually, if you set these to 45, you can actually get quite a bit of use out of them here too. And let's grab this and pull this over. You'll notice that they don't quite snap together anymore. That's fine. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't turn these off and rotate it just a little bit and just kind of set it into place. If you decide to scale these, so I'm going to go ahead and scale this, just be aware that you may start to get errors in the collision. These ones are built really well, so the collision shouldn't be a problem. But when you're scaling things in a non-uniform way, it can affect the way the collision is actually built around the object. There are some default pieces inside of the starter content for the Unreal Pack stuff that they have. There's some rocks in there. If you scale them a little bit weird and not have them uniform, you can have some serious problems. So be aware of that. Is there a way to lagging with changing the direction of flying? Probably. I don't know enough about animation and the animation states and getting to kind of move from one animation into another. So I wouldn't be able to kind of troubleshoot that one. And then they start slowing down. Yeah, that's that one's beyond my information. I couldn't help you with that one. Sorry, Evolution. I would love to, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not an animator. I would hate to give you wrong information. Again, that would be no fun. I have been thinking about your request about doing some world building stuff. So yeah, I want to do some world building, some open world stuff. So my plan is to play with that one next week too. So I have not forgotten about what you were asking about. I have a door. Let's put a door in here. Cool. So we've got that. And then, so here's kind of a cool little trick too. So I've got this door in here. So I'll hold Alt, click and drag it over, right? So maybe I want to replace this with a wall. With this one selected, come down here and select the actual wall inside of your content browser. And then if you right click up here, says place actor, but you can also say replace actor. And it's got this whole list of things that are up here, like the one that's selected currently. You can also replace it with cameras and real-time stuff and player starts and things, but you can hit this and then boom, it just replaces it, which is really nice. Yeah, cool. You're very welcome, Evolution. Yeah, so it's probably animation stuff. It's probably animation states would be my guess. The name of that little tool is called, but there are some really cool, some amazing animation tools. I actually just released a bunch of really, really awesome animation stuff, which is, yeah, oh my gosh, makes me want to be an animator, but not enough to like.
You want to buy the cartridge, the memory cartridge, the memory chip, and plug it in.
Right, exactly. See the thing there. All right, so let's build a little room here. So I've got this big giant area. So when I'm building something that's going to be large, I immediately start kind of breaking it down bit by bit, chunk by chunk, right? So I've got all this space to kind of fill this in. There's no way I'm going to be able to like, oh, let's put a table and a chair here and one of these things. Like I'm going to build it into rooms and then take those rooms and then build them into little sections. And then those little sections are then going to have little stories in them. So by thinking about it modularly and kind of breaking it down like you do with any kind of art form, really, just start large and then slowly move down into these smaller pieces. Let's put in one of these. Let's put a deck up above. Where is the floor? Oh, it's a ceiling piece. So this is the thing, right? So this floor kit piece, if I drag it in, it looks like that on one side. You kind of saw this earlier, but if you flip it over, then it looks like a deck. So we can kind of put this here. Bring that over, bring that over. That one there. Now this is why I don't always figure it out. Now I've got this weird kind of open spot. I don't really have anything to put over it that's going to fit. I would have to go make a custom piece. So run over to Blender or Maya or 3D Studio Max or Tinkercad or whatever program you want to kind of check out and use. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and just solve my problems by getting rid of the problem. So now I've got a deck up here. Let's actually put a door back here so we can actually see where we're going. Just grab that one and bring it over. Once you've kind of got these pieces in your world, it makes it really easy to build. So Now we're over here, and let's grab all of these. Now I could very easily just make a merged actor out of this, but I may or may not run into some issues. I'm also going to, let's build a roof for this too. So our roof pieces are, oh, here's a pro tip. Sometimes just, let's let go of that one. If you right mouse click, you can actually just click and drag in here. Makes it a little easier than having to scroll. Okay, I saw the roof pieces. I just went right by them. Cool. So roof kit. Grab that one. Whoops. Let's bring this over. And we'll put that one there. Make a duplicate there. Grab that one right there. This one, actually, all these over just a bit. Grab that one, delete it. I'm going to grab in a corner one. Actually, let's do this. Let's move this over. Select that one, right click on this one, and then we'll replace it. So replace with this piece. Boom. And then we can just rotate it because it's in the right spot. And Alt Shift and drag. You can duplicate it and drag at the same time. Cool. So now we've got this up here, but let's see here real quick. If we do the run and jump thing, make it over here. We jump. Can we get up here? Hey, we can actually just fly right up there. Look at that. That's nice. Cool. So now we've kind of got a spot for our character to kind of hang out, right? Now, one of the things that we can't do, well, eventually we can because it's got enough momentum, jump, is that if we wanted to get up to something kind of higher, don't forget we do already have, where are you? Oh, they're not going to be in static meshes. They are in our blueprints. So if we go into Hour of Code, our blueprints in here, we have things like our jump boost. So if we drag a jump boost in here, and I'm going to right click right here and then just say play from here, make life a little bit easier. So when I grab this, now I can jump really high, way up in the air. And it comes back. Oh, there we go.
That's nice. So you can give yourself a little cheat. So you need the jump boost and the fly to get somewhere. If you can kind of coordinate that.
Yep. So you can compound these pieces. Poof, right? Let's see if we can break the game. I'm curious. So if we take this is going to be a miracle if I can get this in one go. Okay. Does it allow us to, oh, I should have started over there. That's fine. We start flying, grab the jump boost. We like jump mid-air.
Too much space bar.
Can't do it. So much clicking. Okay. So this is what I mean about like iterative gameplay. I'm like, well, what can I get away with? What are the game mechanics that I can actually kind of futz to kind of get what I'm looking to, happen? Can I add something extra to it, right? Like, are these going to be really important things for me to have to understand, or for the player to understand while we're actually working in here, right? So let's move all of these up a little bit. We can't actually fly up on top of this, and we can duplicate that, and then we can duplicate that. I want a window, so we'll grab these. And what I'm doing now is, while I'm kind of building these pieces, is that I want to make sure that I've got something visually interesting. So if these were all just one wall, like, it would be super boring. Like, it just wouldn't be really cool to kind of look at, right? So we can kind of take some of these pieces out and rearrange them so that they feel like a proper door, proper wall, proper building as we're actually working with this stuff. So we've got that. Now we want the jump boost over here. And just over here. There's that. And let's give the player something to get at. So we've got this gem. So this one is considerably worth more. We'll just say that it's like a rare item, right? And we haven't really kind of established any kind of rarity in the game yet, but we can kind of grab this and let's bring it, put it right up here. So now the player sees that there's something up there. So from a distance, we're like, ooh, shiny, and it's moving and it's animated, right? So if we take a running jump, come over here. There we go. And I can use this one get up there a little bit easier. Okay. So entice the player, give them something to actually do as they're going. We've got a different specularity map on one value than the other. Ooh, good times. All right. Things an artist notices as you're running around the world, right? Okay, so what if when we get up here, okay, we've enticed the player to come up here, right? Let's then
Release a dragon. Sorry.
release the Kraken. Was that movie An American Tale? Release the secret weapon. Movie. I think I was about 4 when that one came out.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't remember that one.
It was they did a sequel. The Fievel Goes West was the second one they did too. It was about an immigrant family, I believe from Russia, that came over, and he was a mouse. Is a mouse. Touch. He ends up coming over and getting separated from his family. So the movie's about him making his way back to his family. Very cute.
That's cute. Yeah. We have a question from Evolution. Would you say separate static meshes in example large buildings with loads of walls and doors and so on affect performance versus building with only like 4 walls in terms of scale of our levels?
Yeah, it absolutely totally does. Something that's actually really cool about this project is that it's built so that you can build it like this, so it's not very heavy. You'll notice that, and maybe you'll notice, whoops, wrong button. I want that button up here in the top right. It's not going to do it right now, but my frame rate here is like at 8 frames per second. I'm actually looking at the milliseconds. It's more important than the frame rate, but it's right now it's chugging pretty hard because I'm using a zoom. But if I zoom out and then I go back into the game, you'll notice it's sitting up at like 120. So these assets are really, really quick, which is awesome. They're very, very lightweight. So let's kind of dive into that really quick. So I'm going to hit Control E on the keyboard with one of these walls selected. And we'll get our editor. Let's also turn off the seizure floor. Goodbye. Okay. Let's go into show, and then let's go ahead and do, do lit. Sorry, my bad. And we're going to turn on brush wireframe. So you can see this is a really low poly mesh. Like it's super, super low. The vertices on it, hopefully you can see this. It's only like 618. So what we're thinking about when we're talking about performance and frame rate and how long it takes to draw a frame in milliseconds, right, is the more objects that are on screen, the more calls the game needs to make. So if I'm building a building like this and it's made out of 500, 600, 700 pieces, that's 500, 600, 700 draw calls. Each material is also a draw call. So if we select the wall, like Control E, sorry, the window. Okay. So this one has 1 material on it, which is awesome. So that's another 1 draw call. So I've got 1 draw call for the mesh, 1 draw call for the material. And now if I've also got collision, we're not technically drawing it on screen, but it is also drawing that as well. And then if I have to bump into it, it has to do like physics calls and kind of call that as well. So the more pieces you have, yes, the more expensive it becomes. Now, if we go the other direction, say I make 1 giant building and then drop that in there, well, now it has to draw all of those vertices in one go. The problem with that is if, let's do this, I hit F11, right? So right now, if I move the camera forward, over here on the left, most of this building is hidden, so it doesn't really have to draw it. So it doesn't have to think about it. But if this is all 1 giant mesh, even if it's off screen, it has to think about the whole thing. So there's this kind of give and take when it comes to figuring out performance and kind of thinking about the way these work. So what we can do is we can kind of have a hybrid of both. And this is why I kind of introduced that. Remember when we were playing with that merged actors over here? You can kind of create these merged actors that kind of help mitigate that kind of mid ground. There's no perfect solution. You have a performance hit one way or the other, but you can kind of streamline it a little bit more. I do have a few merged actors. So let's take a look at these that I've actually built. And if you go into the hour of code and you do static mesh, oh, I lied to you. Where did it go? In geometry. Oh, here it is. Sorry. It's in the teacher marketplace folder. We've got an MA gate, an MA set dressing A, B, and then a set dressing C. So like this one, this is the simplest one, this little box. So this is actually, let's actually move it up here and hit F11 so we can see it. So this is 6 of those floor pieces put together. Okay. So when you're coming up with ways to be a little bit creative, this is a great way to do it. I'm like, well, I've got that floor. So if I zoom in, if I get in the inside, you can see that it's just, it's just a box with these on the inside of it. So this merged actor gives me a chance to, instead of having what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 draw calls, plus, the materials that are on there too, plus, the collision for each one of these, I've got 1 draw call. But now if it's like halfway off screen, it still has to draw the whole thing. So again, give or take what it is that you kind of want to play with. So let's get rid of that one. The other one that I have in here that's actually kind of cool is this one. So hit that, zoom in on it. This is pretty good sized. So build a spot for it so you can see how it actually, so how I was using it. Bring these over. So this thing is 4 large. If I grab this, you can see it snaps right onto it. And then let's turn my snapping off and pull it forward just a little bit. So this is a combination of a whole bunch of pieces. It's actually, let's do this. So we've got 1 here, 2 here, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one's 7, and then 8, and then 9. So instead of this being 9 draw calls, at least for the physical geometry, it's just 1. And what's cool, so if we select this and hit Control E, we can see that this has 2 materials. So I've actually got 3 draw calls for this, 1 for the mesh and then 2 for the actual materials, as opposed to having 9 for the whole set and then, 2 material calls on that one too. So yes, you can kind of get one direction and one the other direction.
Nice.
And they're kind of fun. So this is like my favorite use of these merged actors. I'm like, oh, I can just kind of slam them together and get these really cool shapes, right? Like I don't have to worry about it. The other one that I built too, because there are a couple of them in here, is just this little guy. This is just another little set dressing piece. This one, probably recognize, this thing again. So here's this, right? But this is actually a merged actor of 2 of them, because this is actually 2 merged actors, or a merged actor is put into that, and then just these guys. And these are literally, whoops, turn that paint or drawing thing off. There you go. You're in here. You're down here toward the bottom. Are these just levers? These are specifically built to go with this lever piece, but I just took it and stretched it and gave it a completely new purpose. There's nothing wrong with trying to come up with a clever way to kind of make this stuff work. Because this one right on top of it. Okay, instead of trying to get this here, let me show you another quick tip. If I select this object and in my details, I can right click on location and say copy, and then select the lever and then right click and say paste, and it'll remember X, Y, and Z, which is awesome. Boom. And then it's just right on top of it. Because again, the pivot point, it's all about the pivot point.
Nice.
So this is how this was intended to be used. I didn't use it that way.
So the cool thing about that stuff is also that you're reusing assets, like
Right.
you're like these are big files, so the more different elements you start to introduce into your project, the bigger your asset base is going to be, the bigger size file it's going to be. So the more you could recreate or create new things with existing assets, the less you're going to introduce that storage burden.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it makes a big difference.
And Fortnite Creative it illustrates that pretty well. If you ever build in Fortnite Creative, reusing assets, it costs very little versus introducing new assets to the island.
Yep. So one thing I want to talk about before we leave is, because I said I would talk about these down here, the grass and stuff. And this kind of goes evolution. This is a little bit kind of what you were asking about when it comes to like your world building, like these open worlds. There's a nifty little tool, and it's called the foliage tool. This is great. You can put just about anything in it. You can do rocks, you can do trees, you can do grass. In this case, we're going to do the grass, plants, people, like whatever it's statues, whatever it is that you want to do. So to get at this, I'm going to come up here to the top under modes, and I'm going to go into foliage. This is going to open up a new little spot next here to my place actors. And there's a big spot up here that says drop foliage here, right? So let's grab the simplest one just to make it real easy. So I'm just going to take this grass DK1. I'm just going to drag it in there. And it's going to say, hey, we're going to make a new foliage type. And that's fine. I typically just save it right where it came from. Like, totally good, right? Save that thing where it came from. So, okay. So we'll select this, okay, and let me zoom in on it so you can see this. There is a little box right here. This is a checkbox. With this turned on, it lets the game engine know that I want to paint this onto the surface. I'm going to go ahead and hit this little save button right here. This will actually just save it, just so I've got it. Is it going to let me do it? It's not going to let me do it. Probably have to turn it on and add something. Okay, so I got to wait for it to add something. So with this one turned on and this one selected, if I hover over the earth or anything really, and now I've got this big brush. There are a host of tools when it comes to this. If you look at the top, we've got select, all, deselect, invalid, lasso, paint, reapply single, blah, 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 blah. There's a bunch of them up here. And then our paintbrush size up here. So this is going to be kind of important. Okay, so right now it's just set to paint. And if I click on the surface, hey, look at that. I get a bunch of little pieces. Now, this thing is indiscriminate, and you'll notice it will just kind of drop it off the edge. It doesn't care. Again, depending on where the pivot point is on this object, which it is probably in the dead center of this one. So that's why it's kind of coming over the edge. That's fine. I can hold shift and I can kind of erase them. So that gets rid of them. I don't think it's doing it on the bottom. Okay, good. It's not doing it on the bottom. Okay. So then let's take our draw size here. And let's make it, this is in Unreal units, so centimeters. So if I do 100, this will give me a meter big here, and then I can just click and drag and drop these all over. Cool, and we can drop some of them over here. Yay. See how fast you can build a world. It's so nice. You can do these up the walls, so be careful. Where you,
All right.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want them up there. I don't know.
All right.
Right? So let's add in a couple of flowers. This one will be the easiest one to see. So I'm just going to take this daisy and I can drop this up here. It's going to say, hey, let's make a new foliage asset. That's awesome. Already exists. Oh, it's got the same name. Already got one in there. I must already have one in there. Let's just say 02. We'll just make it simple. Boom. Okay, so now we get that one. Now you'll notice up here, zoom in on it. This one's got 109 in it now. So that lets me know that there are 109 instances of this mesh out there. Okay, it's not a static mesh, it's a static mesh instance. So it's a little bit less expensive, right? You're talking about performance, this is how this works. I can turn this one off, turn this one on, and now I'm just painting with this one, right? So now I can come in here and I can click and I can drop in these little guys. I can turn them both on, okay, and I can paint with, let's go to the back side here. And now I can paint with both of them. Okay. Now beware, this gets really expensive really fast. This isn't bad for this. These are really low poly, but these are already in here. So talking about what you can do as far as the density, right underneath here, depending on which one of these is actually selected yellow, you'll notice I have a different static mesh that shows up here. Okay. So you can see that changing. Okay. And then underneath here, we've got like a density. Well, how many of them per cubic Unreal unit? That's what that kind of stands for. 1,000 UU, it's centimeters. How many are you going to put in there? The radius, how far away or how big of a radius do you want them from each other? So if you've got like something like trees, you don't want them like spawning right into each other. So you can actually kind of give it a little bit of a radius. So that's really handy. If you do single instance mode, let me just open this up. You can override that radius. So you can turn this on. So in case you want to be like, oh, let's put like a single one in there, I can just set it in there, boom, and it'll override that radius that's right above it. So in case you do want like a rock inside of a rock, you can use this. Coming down here, we've got uniform scaling. This is nice because you don't stretch and squash stuff. But if you're doing things like trees, you can actually set like a minimum and a maximum. So you're like, oh, I want some little trees and some big trees. You can change them there. Your placement, so you've got your Z offset as it kind of scatter further out away from the actual brush. Maximum angle. So if you're on like the side of a hill, this will kind of decide whether or not you want it to be on something really steep or something that's a bit more shallow in angle. So that way you can't put, trees growing up like sheer cliffs. It's a thing. Random yaw, this will kind of spin the object. A yaw is in Unreal, it actually goes around the Z axis, so the vertical axis. Random pitch angle, same kind of idea. Ground slope, your min and max, so you can kind of control that as well, just like your max angle here. Your height, this one is kind of cool if you're working in something like the Appalachian Mountains or you're working at sea level. Like if you've got a giant world, you'd be like, oh, well, I don't want the artist to be able to paint any of the seaweed on the mountains. So you can actually give it like a negative value and it'll only paint in that area. So you can create like an actual tree line, which is kind of fun.
That's cool.
There's an instance, so you can set these to mobile or static. For this example, static is going to work fine. Like I'm never going to need anything to be mobile. I don't need them to be moving around. Your cull distance. This is also important. For those that are taking notes, this is really important because at a distance, you want them to kind of start to fade out and like disappear, right? So it's culling their information. Right now, all it's culling is the shadow. It's not actually culling the actual object, but you can set this distance to a min and max. Again, this is in Unreal units, centimeters. Do you want them to cast a shadow? Maybe you want them to cast a shadow. Maybe you don't want them to cast a shadow. Are they on the mountain way back in the background? Do you need the processing power to actually cast shadows? If not, then don't worry about it. Doing something kind of spooky and it's at dark at night and you don't need to cast shadows, they don't need to cast shadows. Like, unless the player's got an actual, you'll notice that with this turned on, you've got dynamic lighting, distance, field lighting. I'm not going to go into this. This is really cool. Jump into the Unreal Online Learning platform and go look up distance field lighting. This is a really cool trick. This is like awesome stuff. Dynamic cast shadows, regular cast shadows, collision. Right now, I can walk right through these. Okay. This is probably okay for something like, plants, very small plants and bushes. Think like Ark. I don't know if you've ever played Ark, but Ark, you can walk through the bushes, but you can't walk through the trees. So you can set your collision on the trees to block all, maybe block the player. Maybe you want lasers to go through them. So you'd set it up very specific that way. Navigatable geometry. I have no idea what that is. I'm guessing it has to do with like AI and your player actually being able to walk on top of things. So can you walk on it? I don't know. I have to look that one up. I have no idea. We got physics down here. We got scalability. We got virtual textures. I've never played with virtual textures, but you can do some really cool things with them. And then you can open this up and even go further. So skip MIPS. So all kinds of things. So the foliage tool is incredibly powerful and you can just kind of, populate stuff without any problems. Hold shift, you can get rid of them. Okay. Add a couple extras in there. Make sure you save it. Yay, save. Let's go ahead and leave the foliage asset. I'll go and so modes, and I'll just go back into selection mode up here. Come here. There we go. They are one actor. Okay. So they're one big, where's the gizmo? There it is. It's way over there. It's the world origin. So they are one big piece. So they do render kind of as one thing. So that's kind of worth it to kind of think about. Sometimes you need to have like kind of multiples around to get what you need done. If you're baking your lighting, you will most likely get a warning that says, hey, by the way, these are really expensive. And it's a warning. It's not like you have to really be totally concerned about it. Just kind of dig into what they actually do and how they actually work. So yeah, foliage actors are great. They're a lot of fun. You don't have to do them with just trees. I do them with rocks. There's a Quixel video. I think it's about a year or two old, and they were doing like an alleyway, and they were just actually adding in like cigarette butts and detritus, and they were just painting them all over the ground wherever they needed it. I was like, oh, that's a cool way to use that too. So yeah. So hopefully
Scattering litter.
The idea of your environments.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that you could set the altitudes and things like that. Obviously, the spacing and frequency of an object, rotation, to give it that randomness is valuable. So you could definitely mess around with that.
Yeah, but you can instantly see like it just gives the world so much more character. Break up that silhouette right there at the border. It's a thing. Get up here and get the thing.
Ta-da! Cool.
There we go.
Awesome. What are we thinking about for the next session?
I definitely want to kind of take a little bit what we were just talking about. Evolution had a question about doing landscapes for like open world games. So we can talk about some of the landscaping tools and how their performance hits and things that they think about. And yeah, so we'll kind of play with that. We might do one in this world. We'll see if we can get it to work. I'll have to get a couple of materials set up. Maybe we'll jump into some of the Quixel stuff too, because they'll just make materials for us, so we don't have to go through a full tutorial
Nice.
of material, which is really nice.
So is that like you'll be able to push pull to kind of morph landscape? Is that the style of landscape building
Yep.
you'll be talking about?
Yeah,
Nice.
so it'll be very sculptural, which will be very cool. We did have a comment last week too about doing a potato and dropping a potato in the world. So maybe we'll do a ZBrush video one of these days too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We'll kind of jump in there. And so, yeah, because that's actually not too bad, because we can go from doing world building, which is sculptural stuff, and actually working with ZBrush. And I can show you where you all can get a free version of it, and how you can use it to your advantage, and actually bring it straight into the game too. We can do that. We can use ZBrush Core Mini to make that happen, I think.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like a session on building an asset and bringing it into the game.
Yeah. Yep.
That'd be a cool session for sure. But yeah, if anybody else has any ideas, what you would like to see, things to put on our list, add them to the comments. If you're watching this recorded, throw it in the comments of where you're watching it. If you're watching on YouTube, then throw in your thoughts there. We look at all that stuff and we try to add, what works for us and what works for you.
Any of those, any of my students are watching these, and there's something that I haven't covered in class, I can cover it a lot easier here. Yeah, we'll kind of play with that stuff. So yeah, thank you so much, y'all, for kind of joining, asking question. Evolution, thank you so much for that. Hunt on Doom, I know you took off already, but thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, and I guess we'll see y'all next time.
Nice group. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks, Gatlin. It's always great watching you work. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.